Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Overanalysts, bringing you serious and sometimes silly discussions surrounding topics in gaming as both an industry and a culture. My name is Brady, or The Overanalyst on Twitch and associated platforms, and I am joined, as always, by my dear friends Martina, or Seth the Overwitch,
Hi.
and Mate, or Comrade Potato.
Hey yo.
And today we're going to be taking another interesting little deep dive into the development history of one singular title. Now, when last we met, I walked you through the partial history of Fallout 76 and Bethesda's sordid, sloppy campaign to restore its reputation. It's quite telling that that episode was about 2 hours long and didn't get even a year into the game's actual lifespan. Who knows? I might release a solo video on that in the future. But today, Mate is going to be taking the reins and walking us through what, sir?
Ooh, the development history of the first Crash game,
All right.
which was also one of the first just 3D platformers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun one. The
Okay.
amount of hacking and janky stuff they had to do to actually make the game, to actually make the game and make it work was whoa. That was a lot of stuff. But basically, a little history about the company that made it. Founded in 1984 under the name of Jam Software by creators Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin. Uh, Jam actually was an acronym for Jason and Andy's Magic Software.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so wholesome. I love it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they first started making basically games for or software for the Apple II, and the first game they ever made was basically a ski game, and their only copy of the source code was overwritten by one of them by some bootleg games they were, I guess, playing.
Aw.
And yeah, and then they created another one over the next weekend and sold it. I'm not sure who they sold it to exactly, but for $250.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then in '89 they changed their name to Naughty Dog.
Hmm.
Yeah, they were acquired by Sony Computer Entertainment in 2001. Uh, and I don't think we need to talk more about the company anymore. I mean, most people should know the games they've been making.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
insanely well known, and
They're
right
a big
now are
name now.
helming up some of Sony's largest franchises.
Yep. And basically, they just kept making bigger and bigger games. Anyways, when they first conceptualized the very game like a 3D platformer, they kind of went and saw that so many games are starting to go 3D. Fighting games, stuff like that, and they were
Mhm.
like, well, there's not really a game in this genre of games, so why not make one? Why not be the first? They kind of saw which platform to go to, and they went through all the Ataris. They went to the Panasonic ones. What was it called?
3DO?
Yes, 3DO, which was basically a flop because it was expensive and nobody was really developing for it and nobody was buying it.
Nobody cared.
Yeah, and basically they saw this new thing that Sony was making, the PlayStation. They basically got helped by Universal.
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones that budgeted them and sort of approved the game. The actual budget of the game was $1.7 million,
Hmm.
which is quite a lot if you think about it. Back in
Back then,
those
it would have
days,
Back
been a
in the day,
ton.
yeah.
yeah. A lot of that money just went into hardware. They bought for 5 people in the company Silicon Graphics workstations,
Mm-hmm.
which were at the time about 75 to $100,000 each.
Jesus fuck nuts.
Yeah, and then they had to buy the software to actually do 3D graphics, which was another about $75,000 per machine.
Whew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and a lot of this was like the hardware, right, at the same time or shortly thereafter, that like Pixar would be using on Toy Story, the same types of computers, the same types of software as well, for 3D rendering and modeling and animation. Meaning they were basically setting up a film studio's worth of tech in their little office, right, to make a video game.
Oh, absolutely. This was not the stuff people were making games with.
No,
For making games, people use like $3,000 desktop PCs. I mean, that was still at that time about the pricing for that kind of machine. It was still expensive, but this was just most people would consider it overkill.
yeah.
Yeah.
They also had to buy a PlayStation Dev unit, which was another $35,000,
Woo.
and that thing was a lot beefier than the actual PlayStation. So anything they would make on that worked, but barely, would most definitely not work on the
Mm-hmm.
actual units that were being sold for like $300 each. Also, apparently, it came with a bunch of manuals, like a shit ton of books, which
Right.
were badly translated from Japanese. So a lot of the times they had to just like go, well, what were they trying to say here? How do we do this? Yeah, and when they started making the game, the initial thought was, Nintendo has Super Mario, Sega has Sonic. Let's make a mascot for Sony, even though he was never officially, accepted by Sony
Right.
as a mascot. Everybody was like, oh yeah, Sony Crash, like
Mm-hmm.
exclusive. I think they also had a bunch of like marketing campaigns where a dude in a Crash costume would be calling out Mario in front of like Nintendo's office or something.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I,
Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah, plumber boy, come out, fight me. uh,
Crash new
but
character for Smash Bros.
yeah, but initially, before he was Crash the Bandicoot, he was Willy the Wombat.
Ha!
They never actually intended for him to be called Willy the Wombat because there was a non-gaming IP already existing there.
Of course.
But it was one of the working titles, and initially it was the Wombat, which they changed. By the time they started production, they've already decided on the Bandicoot. They just didn't know the full name yet. They they didn't name him Crash yet because the name came from like him crashing into boxes,
Yep.
and the actual boxes were added much later into the development to combat the 3D-ness of the whole thing, because in a 2D side-scrolling game you have up and down. Basically, if you set up the obstacles, there's mostly just one way your character can go, unless you find some double jump stuff or
Right.
some sort of exploit. And here you had 3 dimensions, so which means you couldn't really fill up that space to the point where the player couldn't just like go around anything they wanted. So add boxes, make them a challenge, uh, give the player something extra for breaking all the boxes.
Right.
And I think you've said it on stream, Brady, a couple of times. The devs also jokingly called the game Sonic's ass game because
Mm-hmm.
initially, as they were saying, you'd just mostly be looking at the character's ass.
And I think it's important for us to take a moment to appreciate, well, first off, how absurd that working title is. But secondly, the cultural moment it was coined in, because this tells us, right? That name tells us that the Sucker Punch, Naughty Dog team's cultural touchstone for a top quality AAA platformer at the time was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
where their mind went when they thought platformer. They didn't go to Mario. They didn't go elsewhere. They went to Sonic. So, younger listeners, Yes, there was a time when Sonic the Hedgehog was actually like the gold standard in platformers. It seems like a faraway time. The type of time that maybe only the old school describes as like a fantasy that they misremember as fact, right?
When I
Like
was younger.
yeah, like how when we were kids, people would reminisce about like their childhoods and how much better everything was, and we're pretty sure most of it was wrong. That's the way folks in our generation talk about Sonic, I feel. But
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
a time when Sonic was the gold standard for platformers, at least in the eyes of a lot of audience members and like professionals. Hence, Naughty Dog saying, "Yeah, we're not going to make Mario's ass game. We're
I
making
mean,
Sonic's ass game."
my grandma is reminiscing about Yugoslavia, and we're reminiscing about Sonic. So there's that, you know.
Wow. Wow. Nice one. Uh, Jesus Christ. Uh, where was I? So yeah, they added an extra dimension to the game. They made it 3D. But then they decided, it's a bit empty, it's a bit bland. So why not remove a dimension, but remove a different dimension? So you'd have certain levels that were going left to right. You'd have certain levels that were you were just running
Yeah.
forwards. You'd have a level where you'd be running backwards and a boulder was chasing you, where they didn't really remove any of the spatial dimensions, but they removed the time as a dimension, where if you slack around, wait, you get ran over by a huge rock. And also, yeah, one of their initial ideas, concepts when they were making the character, they wanted to make a Looney Tune style cartoon character,
Mm-hmm.
like not anything that would be taken like realistically, at least at the time, or serious. They wanted him to, if he gets run over by a boulder, he gets flattened into a pancake.
Yeah.
Uh, all a bunch of like elastic stuff, and I think one of their like cartoonish inspirations was also Ducktales. Ooh.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Now, where the hacking stuff comes in, the PlayStation console had the consumer version had like 2 megabytes of RAM, and their development one, I have seen like conflicting info. It was like between 8 megabytes and like 32, I
Oh
think.
wow.
Which was a lot at the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
the computers you'd be working with, like actual computers at that time, would have like 640 kilobytes of memory. I'm not sure how much the Silicon Graphics workstations had, but I'm assuming a lot more because they were much beefier machines. But basically, PlayStation console would be able to draw about 1500 polygons per frame,
Mm-hmm.
and it had 30 frames per second. Of those 1500 polygons per frame, 600 of them went into crash.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they wanted to make the character as nice looking as possible. They didn't want like a walking triangle going around.
Well, they wanted a
And
character like you mentioned with the Looney Tunes influences I've seen in several accounts that was very, very expressive and like eye-catching, exaggerated in design and movement, right?
oh yeah, yeah, and looking really nice. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you look at Crash, which was one of the first like 30 games ever developed for the PlayStation, it's still one of the nicer looking characters among all the games.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
absolutely.
Even nicer than some PlayStation 2 characters they had. And so most of those polygons went into Crash, which means they couldn't put that much into the level design polygons. So they went the side of instead of using geometry to draw details on the environment, they would be focusing more on textures. And they
Mm-hmm.
had really nice textures as well. They had a really good artist working on them.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things also that was going on. They were like, well, we're missing a bit of memory here. So I think it was Andy Gavin who sort of saw there was some of the memory was being used by Sony's libraries, and he was like, I don't need these things, so he sort of deleted them and used that memory.
Hmm.
As he said it, it was free memory. Just, it still works. Everything's still fine. I mean, that
Right.
was on the dev console. So on the actual, I'm assuming, consumer version, there was probably none of those libraries. This was the stuff just needed to make it work. Also, one of the things they did to sort of save, not save space, just use better levels. Like, if you look at the other PlayStation era games, the levels weren't that detailed,
No. No, not at all.
especially compared to Crash. Well, Andy sort of noticed, I have 2 megabytes for the entire level because there's a loading screen where the level gets loaded from the disk,
Hmm.
and that's it. You use about a megabyte for textures and about a megabyte for everything else. But why wouldn't he be able to use stuff from the disk? So he calculated it takes about 6 seconds to load 1 megabyte from the disk. So he basically just all the assets you had for that level, he split them up into little 64 kilobyte pages. And as long as he didn't need to use in one portion of the level more than 16 of those pages, if he placed them well enough on the disk, he could just keep basically dynamically loading parts of the level. So they were
Nice.
able
Nice.
to use like up to 30 megabytes for a single Crash level, which is also interesting because like CDs, that were used for games, had about like 640 megabytes of storage on them.
Something like that, yeah.
For most games, they were empty because you could load up like 302 megabyte levels on them. But how? When would you make that game? How long would it take you? Like the PlayStation would no longer exist. It would be the PS2 now.
Right.
So he was like, "Yeah, let's try this." I mean, at one point they even like disassembled the dev unit just to see better see how it works. I think they also had like some basically Sony told him some stuff, um, in a closed room, just hush hush, that helped them also work, develop it better because they weren't even finished with making the console itself.
No, and they were interested in making sure that their partners who were having to develop for this thing on the fly is like the first batch of like second and third party developers for the console were able to produce the highest quality, maybe not necessarily gameplay experiences, but technical experiences they could, right? To,
Yeah.
well, make the PS1 and its capabilities look really impressive with
Yeah,
its launch
exactly.
library.
Yeah. Uh, they also like the animations that Crash does. Being flattened by the boulder, being turning around, waving. Everything of that was kind of impossible if you were not, I guess, as um I don't even know what words to use. Like what they did, uh, they made the animations in the software that like animation companies like Pixar
Hmm.
used to make their own games. But that games, movies, but that took a lot of like space. The size of the animation was like huge. Also, it would need to be rendered, and they were trying to do stuff in real time. So what they did was pre-bake the animation, so like make it, and then
Hmm.
did a huge analysis. Like is instead of using like the stuff they were using to animate it, they would just use the math required to move the vertices and the polygons to make the actual animation.
Oh wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
Yes,
really.
exactly. But also they did a huge analysis of the stuff that isn't really needed, stuff you can remove where the animation still stays pretty much the same. with
Mhm.
maybe lower quality, kind of like JPEGs work. You remove a bunch of trash
Right.
or a little bit of quality, and the picture looks mostly the same, but it's like 10, 10 times the size, 1/10 the size of what you had before.
Yeah.
And what they got is animations that were like 1/50th of the size from what they rendered on the computers they had.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
like I said, a bunch of basically hacking the console.
Yeah.
Um, oh god, where was I? Their sales just kept going up year by year. I think they said that when Crash Team Racing released, which was I think Crash Team Racing released after Crash 3 Warped,
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
uh, their sales for Crash Bandicoot were higher than that week than ever before. Like that's how popular the game was.
Nice.
I mean, like I think Crash was like one of the first 4 games I ever got for the PlayStation.
Everybody knew about Crash. That was one of the games that the parents would always let you play.
Yeah, and that's also what they wanted to do. They wanted to make it um, kid friendly, non-violent. It is kind of violent, but
With
it's
no
kind of not.
real,
It's
like,
cartoonish
realistic.
violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so okay, the voice actors, or I should say, voice actor, because 99% of all the characters in the game is just one actor.
Nice.
And
Impressive.
the only one that wasn't done by the same actor, Brendan O'Brien, was
Mhm.
the voice of Ripper Roo,
Hmm.
which was
Really?
which was just like Ripper Roo was a sped up sample recorded by Golden Era voice actor Dallas McKennon.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he also voiced like the hyena in Disney's Lady and the Tramp.
Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that would explain why Ripperoo reminds me of those hyenas.
Yeah, I guess it would.
But wait,
And
what about Coco?
Coco was not in the first game,
All
Yeah,
right,
that's
right.
and
that's
She appeared
right.
in
Tawna
the
did not
second.
have a voice.
Yeah.
But since we are on the subject of Tawna, do you guys know who the inspiration for her character was?
Jessica Rabbit.
No,
No
Marilyn
idea.
Monroe.
Pamela Anderson.
What?
Oh,
They,
that's 90s as hell.
Yeah.
yeah, they sort of like toned it down a bit, not to make it too provocative, but she was the inspiration for the character.
Even though it was
Nice.
still deemed too provocative by, like, audiences in the end, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Just just the whole game is just Crash being horny.
Basically.
But yeah,
Honestly, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like the cortex vortex, the thing that was supposed to brainwash him, rejected him because he was just too horny.
Wait, is
Um,
that seriously the. Is that the reason?
Is that canon?
I think so. Like
Oh my god.
like before he gets put into the brainwashing thing, he puts he sees Tana and goes like crazy for her. I'm
Oh
pretty
my
sure that's
god.
why he gets rejected. Wait, let me check this.
I thought it was because he was too dim, even after being um greatly enhanced in regards to his, like, intellectual capacities.
I mean, that could be.
He's too dumb to be brainwashed.
That could be the official version. I still like to think I'm right. Uh,
Crash
Your
was too
version makes
horny.
more sense.
True, true.
uh, oh, apparently, it does say something about it still being a prototype.
Ah.
Mm.
I was
So
gonna
it
say
wasn't
Crash
working.
seems like that kind of guy, though, right? I mean, he just like shows up shirtless in like some jean shorts and sneakers and starts like crotch chopping and dancing really awkwardly. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, he.
Yep.
to be fair, he seems to me like the kind of guy that I would meet at the bus station or central train station and
Mhm.
like go the other way if I saw him.
Even if it was taking you away from your intended
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
destination, you
like
would like ride further out just to
exactly. Like I would miss
avoid
a
him.
couple of stops. It's fine. I can walk.
And
Yeah,
poor
yeah.
Coco, she had to put her life on the side just to take care of her dim-witted brother. She's like,
Yeah.
he can't take care of himself.
That's why, like, through the Insane Trilogy and Crash 4, I almost exclusively play as Coco because I just kind of can't stand to see Crash on screen.
Aw, but he's
Uh,
cute in that Cuckoo, the chicken.
Yes, yes, he's cute there, but remember the first game where he kept shoving gems up his nose and butt?
Oh yeah, true.
Like that? That wasn't cool.
but would you prefer if it was Sonic, so you could just look at his ass?
Ugh.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Like,
Sick pervert.
no. Oh, if only so that Sonic could finally be in a good game again.
Aw.
We just need to retroactively ascribe other great games to Sonic.
True.
Like Luigi's Mansion, that's my favorite Sonic horror game.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so some of the other like characters. Neo Cortex was they just like wanted initially they wanted him to be like self-aware that he's like a video game character and is
Ooh.
trying to go against like the stereotypes and everything, but that was kind of scrapped very early. But they still want him to be like someone with a huge ego and
Mm-hmm.
all about like power and respect, while being a small person with a huge
Like
head.
Napoleon.
Sort of.
I
Kind of.
think that it's called the Napoleon complex, right?
I guess, yeah. And
It
then
is, yeah.
we had who was else? Oh yeah, Aku Aku was originally uh intended to be an elderly human character
Hmm.
who communicated through mumbles only intelligible to Crash.
Mm.
Sort of like C3PO and R2D2 in Star Wars.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Or Chewbacca.
Like,
Yeah,
like a
Chewbacca and
fusion of Chewbacca and Mumbo Jumbo, I guess.
Oh god.
oh, yeah, they also decided to scrap that. But his like the name Aku Aku originates from a Polynesian restaurant they I guess
Huh.
ate a couple of times,
Nice.
and apparently according to them the food was terrible.
Ah, well.
Okay.
And Pinstripe, one of the bosses in the game, one
Oh
of
yeah, the
Neo's
rat mafioso.
henchmen, yeah, guess what he was inspired by? Should be easy.
Scarface.
The Godfather.
Oh.
Ah, yes.
Um, Dr. Nitrous Brio, Neo's right
Yep.
hand man,
Yep.
they originally named him Needy Brio.
Oh,
When
wow.
when you think about it,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas Ripperoo was supposed to be like just a humorous depiction of how the Cortex Vortex is dangerous, and Papu Papu was pretty much designed to allow the team to animate jiggling fat.
Ah,
Oh my
I
god.
see. Papu Papu, one of the other problematic characters in 90s platformers.
Yeah.
I
He was
mean,
just supposed to be fat. That's it.
They
What's
wanted
his-
an opportunity to experiment with fat.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what is his personality? We don't know, but he
Fat.
jiggles.
but he jiggles. Jiggle, jiggle.
Jiggle, jiggle.
Yeah. The soundtrack of the game is pretty great. I think we can all agree on that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It almost actually never happened. one of the creators, Andy Gavin, actually admitted that it was cobbled together at the last minute, and a previous suggestion involved scoring the game with like an urban chaotic symphony consisting of like random sound effects, bird chirps, car honks, grunts, and
Oh,
farting noises.
Oh, farting noises, of course.
Yeah, but like the
sure.
xylophones and didgeridoos and all that other stuff,
Hmm.
much better.
Absolutely.
Really fit like the theme.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, there was a part where Universal wanted them to keep the character as um, Wombat. Universal Interactive Studios basically insisted that the character should remain a Wombat and be renamed to Wuzzle.
Wazzle the Wumbus.
Wuzzle, yeah, Wuzzle, to
Oh, great.
appeal to cute seeking younger audiences.
Aww.
Yeah, and Naughty Dog hated the idea so strongly that they were willing to abandon the game mid development.
Wow. They were like, nope, no wombats, we're out.
Yeah, but like imagine that would probably not fare as well as Crash Bandicoot. Like
Definitely not.
Absolutely not. That
Wazzle
sounds
the Wombat.
horribly
Wazzle
generic.
Wombat.
You
Yeah,
can't even pronounce that properly.
exactly. We would not be talking about this right now
No.
if Naughty Dog wasn't well naughty.
And a dog.
Oh come on, Seth. That was terrible.
Yes, because yours was much better.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Crash apparently is capable of human speech, even though the audience hates it. I mean, they decided like when it was being made by Naughty Dog exclusively, because for a part of time they didn't have the rights to Crash when
That's right.
they were bought out by Sony, because Universal owned the rights. So they didn't really want him to talk. They thought like the video game characters, like with the voices, were just lame and distracted from like people identifying with them.
Hmm.
And it was the company Radical Entertainment that made Crash of the Titans,
Mm-hmm.
and
Ooh.
they gave him a. They didn't make him like go, oh yes, I'm Crash Bandicoot, I'm intelligent and I can speak. I think the only thing he said was at the very like ending of the game in a cinematic, he just innocently uttered pancakes,
Wow.
and
And that just set people off.
people hated it so much because Crash shouldn't talk
About pancakes.
at all.
Well,
Yeah,
remember there were those ads also back in the day before I think Crash got drunk and started like screaming at office buildings, where like they gave him this horrific like over the top cartoonish Australian accent.
Oh,
I
yes.
think
Oh,
like
my
the
God.
Crash 2 ads.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
remember those. They were terrible.
Those were okay apparently.
What? No. Like, I don't know why they did that, but I feel like every real life commercial for Crash Bandicoot was terrible.
Well, I mean, remember this was like around or after the same time period where they thought the voice of Mario, like in broader media, should be like a retired professional wrestler.
Ah, right.
So,
Yeah.
Oh god. Universal actually did some shady shit before the
oh,
announcement of the game. Yeah, they were trying to claim much bigger credit for the creation of Crash
the character or
before
the game?
the whole game, like before the E3 big announcement where they announced the game. Um, they removed the Naughty Dog logo from the
Ooh.
prototype games box and press material, and that actually
Yikes.
violated the contract between the studio and the publisher. But in response, one of the founders of the studio, Ruben, produced a document entitled Naughty Dog, creator and developer of Crash Bandicoot, to hand out in front of Universal's E3 display, politely offering Universal the chance to review it before the event.
Nice.
Good for
Uh,
them.
apparently this resulted in the head of Universal coming, and that's under like quotation marks, as close to literally flipping his lid as a person can come.
Nice. Respect.
Yeah, yeah,
So publishers have been doing this kind of thing for decades.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
always good to reaffirm.
yeah. But did you guys know that a game was actually removed? A level was actually removed from the game for being too difficult.
Yep.
And
Stormy Ascent.
yeah,
The one that came back in the remake.
Oh
oh,
yeah.
actually, yeah, yeah, Stormy Ascent. You're right.
Or no, what was it? The version that was included in the Insane trilogy, however, as like bonus content, was actually redesigned and rebalanced,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It was
yeah,
not
yeah.
the version that was removed.
I think so. Yes.
Oh god. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, saying something was too difficult for Crash Bandicoot 1 is quite the claim indeed, because it's not really remembered for being such, I don't think, but especially if you go for like a 100% run with all of the gems, optional gems you
Yeah.
can collect, that game is friggin' brutal.
Yes.
Yeah, and the game back then didn't even have the time trials.
That is true. That is true.
But
Four
the
box counter.
uh, that's true. But the original game, while the level was removed from the game, it was still the data for the level was still on the disk. So if you had one of those Game Shark devices that let you essentially
Mm-hmm.
cheat and change some of the parts of the game's code, I guess, to get an advantage or change it in any way, would
Yep.
Mhm.
allow you to actually play the level.
Oh, interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah. And Crash is actually one of the first games with something called a dynamic difficulty adjustment.
Really?
Yeah. So they made this essentially a subtle system to help you if you were dying. So it would give you an aku if you die too many times. It is
Ah,
like
right.
Okay.
same before reaching the checkpoint. And they're essentially like in any game that has that now, they were the first ones to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Um, and in the same year as Crash Bandicoot released on the PlayStation, Nintendo released their own game called Super Mario 64.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Naughty Dog co-founder Jason Rubin was really like impressed by the game when it came out, and he actually admitted at the time that he thought Mario 64 was better than Crash.
Always a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Mario designer Shigeru Miyamoto repaid the compliment, commenting that Crash's water effects were particularly beautiful.
Aw.
Yeah, come on, think about that. How nice was that?
Good guy, Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah. Did you guys actually know that one of the characters from the later games, the Komodo brothers and Tiny Tiger,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
were actually created for the first game?
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
they just didn't make the cut.
They were too
Fascinating.
big, too polygonal.
No, I think they were just like, we have too many bosses. Maybe if we ever make a sequel,
And
put them
indeed,
somewhere.
they would.
I feel like Tiny Tiger is one of the most iconic characters from the Crash Bandicoot series now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
Easily.
definitely. Um, of the Wumpa fruit.
Yeah.
I think one of the developers, there was like discussion online of what they might taste, and one of the
Oh?
developers actually settled the debate, saying they taste like apples.
Well, I mean, they look like apples.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I always thought they were apples. Like, I mean, I realized they were Wumpa fruits only when I got myself internet connection and I saw people calling them Wumpa fruits.
Well, that's because you're a noob.
Yes. I was like, oh, look at all of them apples.
Yeah.
They always look like mangoes to me.
Mm.
So while they were developing Crash, they were working for Universal Interactive Studios, and Universal gave them space to where to work, right?
Right on.
And they were sort of sharing, the Universal Studios backlot with another developer, Insomnia Games,
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
creator of Spyro.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the original Spyro trilogy, you actually had you could, by pressing a special combination of keys, play demos for Crash Bandicoot,
Oh, yeah.
because they were two studios were basically, they were all friends.
And later on in the opposite series or the other series, the inverse was true, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
How nice.
Oh yeah,
Brothers
and
in arms.
yeah, and I mean it's a there hasn't been any new Spyro games though. Like
Not yet.
Crash lived on.
But I mean, Toys for Bob has also been like reassigned to Call of Duty, so there's
Call
that.
of Booty, yes.
Call of Brady.
Oh.
But I mean, Brady, you've played Crash, right?
I have, yes, all four of the mainline entries.
You haven't played the not made by Naughty Dogs games?
Oh, I have. I want to say my first Crash experience was Wrath of Cortex on the PS2. Yikes. Um, Generally considered something of a mixed bag. I don't recall despising it as a kid. The soundtrack was quite nice, as were many of the environments, but certainly not up to the same quality that the original developers brought. But I also played Crash Twinsanity, this vaguely pseudo open world platformer where you could play as Crash, Dr. Cortex, the both of them together as like a single character or with a single move set. And very briefly, Cortex's daughter Nina, who had bionic arms and could grapple around terrain. Um, for one of the post Naughty Dog titles, it was very, very, very good with phenomenal environmental design, well crafted puzzles and environmental interactions, and perhaps most interestingly, a soundtrack comprised entirely of a cappella performances by like a really well known group in that field. Good
Yeah.
stuff, really.
Seth, what about you?
I've played all the except the fourth one, all the mainline games. I've also played Crash Bash, Crash Team
Mm.
Racing, of course. I actually quite enjoyed Crash Bash. I was playing it always with my brother, so yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it was something for us to do.
it was one of the ones I enjoyed that were not made by Naughty Dog,
Yeah,
because it was a
and
party game.
yeah, exactly. So it was basically Mario Party, but yeah.
Exactly.
And I played one on the GBA, the one where it's Crash and Spyro together.
Oh yeah,
I
there were two of those released.
oh, I forgot what the name was.
One with Crash in Spyro's world, and one where the opposite was true.
Yeah. Like there was a button press and like you could switch from Spyro to Crash and from Crash to Spyro or something like that.
Was it? Wait, which one was made for the Game Boy? Crash Bandicoot: The Huge Adventure.
Nope.
No, that one was just a regular Crash title.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I didn't dream it.
Crash Bandicoot Purple,
Yep.
Ripto's
Yes.
Rampage,
And Spyro
and
Orange.
Spyro Orange. Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus. There's actually a lot of Crash games.
That is a very shitty name for a game now I realize. That's probably why I forgot about it. Like my
Yeah.
brain just suppressed it.
Crash Bandicoot Purple, Ripto's Rampage. Jesus Christ. Takes
Yeah.
you long than longer than 2 seconds to pronounce it. It's bad. But yeah, I actually like enjoyed Crash Bash. I've played Crash of the Titans,
Mm-hmm.
which was the PS2 game, which I did not really like. I don't know
I've
what it
never
was.
heard of
It
that.
just was not really Crash for me.
Mm.
Um, it was a bunch of like the Titans. You could what like use them as
Yeah, you could essentially mind control them and use them as mounts.
yeah.
I've played one of those games. Did not enjoy it. It was a very standard like beat 'em up brawler with the notable trait of most enemies, as I can recall, being like really tanky, even like with the Titans. Like there was no, or very rarely, I should say, a real sense of power to anything you did. The game was not difficult by any stretch. It was kind of mindless, really. It just clearly was not Crash.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
new character designs, definitely not Crash's themselves, however, were kind of interesting. And the second game had wonderful cutscenes, but they weren't very good overall. I
Mm-hmm.
don't
Yeah,
think.
but listen to this. This is why this game is a crime. Um, the protagonist of the series, Crash Bandicoot, must stop Cortex and Nina, Cortex's daughter, by using the technique of jacking to take
Yes,
control of and destroy the Titans while collecting
Uh,
mojo.
I remember
Jacking?
that. Yeah, jacking. He jacks the Titans and then is able to control them.
Exactly.
Is that like short version of hijacking?
That's
Yes.
what they were going for. Yes,
Basically, yes.
it's
They
not
should
where we
not
ended
have
up.
shortened it. They should not have shortened it. Yeah.
Nope.
And also, like, the goal of the game is to just save your sister, Coco, because she got kidnapped.
Right.
Is
Save
that,
the damsel in distress.
but is that, like, not the first time she was kidnapped in the Crash games, right?
I don't believe so. No.
I'm not quite sure, to be honest, but I don't think it was ever a prominent part of the game.
Yeah.
I.
I've also played Crash Tag Team Racing,
Mm-hmm.
which I hated.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't really the best.
Yeah, it was just like I wanted, a sequel to Crash Team Racing
Obviously.
where you're, racing and not like having to do a bunch of platforming levels before you get to do a race. And I mean, it was a cool idea, but it just again was not Crash.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
basically, we like Crash when he sticks to the original formula, more or less.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I like
if
Crash when it's made by
only
Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
if only because so many of the deviations they tried weren't just like other gameplay styles. They were other gameplay styles that were either bog standard, like your party games or your racers, or
Right.
actually really awkwardly executed. Um, just Crash is at his best as a platformer, or as like an adventure, like an action adventure game. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said,
Mm-hmm.
Twin Sanity is a bit more of a hybrid title, and it still works really well.
Right.
Um, Jesus, I'm kind of drawing a blank now. Because there wasn't that much about Crash One as I thought.
Well, no, but it's a fascinating story in and of itself.
Oh, indeed it is.
I mean, they basically were working like not with the console, but against the console, like trying to break it in any way for to make their game, which was one of the like first games on the console, work.
Oh yeah,
And
I mean, and work well.
Yeah,
I was about to say, more or less, as they're building the console around themselves.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
was quite the accomplishment.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and like just the decision. Well, we have this $35,000 piece of machine, um, that is the only one we have that we need to build this game. Let's disassemble it to see how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, if they hadn't have done that, they would not know that like the machine is capable of much more than what it seemed from what like they had in the manuals and what
Mm-hmm.
was going on when they were actually trying to use it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because like initially they thought like it was basically almost unable to do any kind of like math that they needed it to do for it to work.
But I mean, Sony was basically cooperating with them, right?
Oh no, Sony was like fully,
In the trenches with them, yeah.
yeah. I just
Ah.
don't think Sony actually knew, about the part of disassembling the machine and hacking it a bit to make stuff
Right.
Ah.
work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because they did say they weren't really allowed to do that.
Right.
So maybe they were like, we have a hunch, wink, wink, that this might work a bit differently if you do this, wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Secret handshake.
No, but it's a great development story, and I'd be interested to learn more about the other installments in the franchise and like their development histories.
Who currently owns Crash
Crash?
IP? Yeah,
Activision.
Activision. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because,
Because I
yeah.
mean, you said that the PlayStation 2 games were not developed by Naughty Dog anymore.
Yeah, because Sony, like when they were working, I think on the Nathan Drake series.
Uh-huh.
No,
Uncharted.
Jack and Daxter or whatever they're called.
Yeah, Jack and Daxter.
Yeah, that's when Sony like didn't want the same thing with Universal to happen, where they lost the IP,
Yeah.
so they bought Naughty Dog
Ah, I
Right.
see.
fully. But so Universal had the rights to Crash, I think until 2003,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rights went to Vivendi,
Hmm.
which I think owned Universal.
Yeah, yeah.
And as we all know, Vivendi was one of the like initial um, companies that merged with Activision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it now is owned by Activision Blizzard.
Right.
Yay. They
Yay.
get
Or
everything eventually.
yeah.
Yeah,
Either them or EA. Well, we're gonna see.
I'm maybe slightly happier that it's owned by Activision, not EA.
I mean, yes, of
Yeah,
course.
EA would have handled it a bit more brusquely. You
Yeah,
know that.
the boxes would be loot boxes.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
you purchase a chance of getting uh
The
the new
levels don't have
Crash Bandicoot
boxes. You
game
have to buy the boxes for the levels.
The levels have
individually.
don't have content, so like if you want to play the level, you have to buy it, and then if you want to have enemies in it, you have to pay $4.99 a month.
Or grind earlier levels to earn like Bandicoot points or something.
If you
Please,
want to
guys,
have the
don't give
bonus
them ideas.
stages, yeah, for bonus stages, $1.99.
Hmm.
Like a pop up pops up when you step on the question mark tile.
Oh god, EA would totally do that, wouldn't they?
They
Oh,
would.
they so would. But I'm actually like Brady. You've also played the fourth Crash game.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
actually pretty satisfied with how they made it. Like it's kind of true to the original trilogy, and they sort of went, fuck those other games. We're just making the Naughty Dogs story canon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it worked out really, really well.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because there's several points in the game where like they're, oh yeah, we beat Neocortex 3 times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then the one of the masks goes like the what's his name, Lolly Lonnie. I was
Yeah.
like, really? Seems like more.
Yes, that's right. It's
Yeah, I thought
it's
that
a
was a
very
nice.
smart, well written game.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
thought it was a nice like Easter egg in there.
Mm.
But yeah, also the studio that makes it, they haven't made really many games, have they?
Like as the lead developer, I don't believe so.
I
No.
think they only have like two IPs: Star Control, yeah, and Skylanders.
Hmm.
Those are game series though.
Oh, I remember when like I saw a Spyro in Skylanders, and I was like, "What the hell is this abomination? Please burn it with fire."
Skylander Spyro's Adventure.
I had a similar reaction to seeing Crash in Skylanders.
Yeah, it was like, "What is this? Please don't
What,
destroy it,
what have they
please."
done? What have they done to our boy?
Why would you do this?
The answer is always money.
Of
Hmm.
course, that's what I always do. Take money from us.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it was a really brilliant idea to first revitalize the original trilogy and then return, like not re- like return with the fourth. Because I feel that there is quite a lot of these spin-off games that were like released after Crash 3 that kind of diluted the IP, and
Oh yeah.
people kind of became, lukewarm towards the franchise more or less. But then, like with the trilogy coming back, the Insane trilogy, that nostalgia train kept going like stronger than ever. So I
Hmm.
think that was like a brilliant marketing choice as well.
Yeah, and Activision's been sort of on a remaster binge as
Oh
well.
yeah, because
Uh,
they don't have any more like creative juices, so they're like, you know what? Let's bring what we already have, just like make it prettier.
no, it's not even about like having an idea for a new game. It's, oh, people like this. If we just make it look nicer, we can get them to dish out another $40 for it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they like this. Let's give it to them far more time, five more times.
Oh
See
yeah, just
also Bethesda and Skyrim.
Hmm.
but
I
that's
mean,
worse.
as
They
Todd
don't
Howard
even
said, just stop buying it.
and we'll stop making it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And God, I hate to say Todd Howard's right about something,
y-
but
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I like that they made the remasters,
oh
and
yeah.
I love the remake because it was a remake of Crash Team Racing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't just like make it, oh, slightly nicer HD graphics
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
everything works the same. No, they remade the game. They added online mode, and they took stuff from the Nitro Kart Tag Team Racing characters, put them in there, put the levels in there,
Mm-hmm.
while still keeping it the Crash Team Racing.
Yeah, speaking of Crash Team Racing, like I started playing it, but I never really got into it, like the remake. I
Hmm.
did play the bejesus out of the original one, but I don't know, for some reason, like I never managed to get into the new one. I think it's mostly because of all of the customization options, and I always have that feeling inside me, like if I can't 100% complete it without being constantly active in events and in this and in that, like I kind of lose interest in the game, just
Especially given that a lot of them uh, are locked behind not exactly paywalls, but like loot type stuff.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Uh,
just not something that you can I mean, you can obtain it by grinding, but it's going to be a very heavy grind.
I mean,
Hmm.
it's not that bad for me, honestly. There's no more Grand Prix events because they
Mhm.
kind of stopped making new stuff for it. So now you at least know that there's not going to be new characters added or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Uh, but it's not like you have loot boxes. You have a store,
Mm,
and the stuff that's on the store is essentially random and
right.
resets every, I think, 12 hours ish or something like that. But also, once you buy something in the store, it gets replaced with a new random item,
Right.
Hmm.
and you won't get duplicates.
Mhm.
So if you just grind out the Wumpa fruit, I mean, you could buy the Wumpa fruit,
Yeah,
of
of course
course.
you can.
Which again I'm fine with because it's easily farmable.
Mhm. And it's a cosmetic when all it's said and done, So it's
Exactly,
something nice
absolutely
to have.
cosmetic.
Yeah.
Maybe I would be happier if the characters were easier to get. Like if you could pick a character individually that you want to get
Mhm.
and not
Mhm.
have to wait for him to show up or buy them all.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's fine. And there's also a bunch of them that you can't even buy, like the alternative skins. that
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to actually complete challenges or win enough races.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, they allow you to farm more if you're playing with a friend.
Yeah.
Also, they allow you to play more over the. They allow you to earn more Wumpa fruit over the weekend,
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
so you wouldn't even feel pressured to play during the weekday.
Yeah, one thing that I don't like is that with that whole randomizer thing in the shop that you mentioned, they're basically forcing you to, keep logging in to get the skin that you want.
Yes and no. I mean, you have, I think, two refreshes every now and then that you can use to just
Mm,
refresh the store.
right.
I mean, yeah, it's a bit shitty. And let me just check how much is the freaking Wumpa fruit. Because I think that's the important part. If you can just like spend $50 and buy everything, that's perfectly fine. If it requires
Yeah.
you like uh uh 30,000 Wumpa coins. Oh, Wumpa coins, sorry. And 10,000 bonus points.
Mm-hmm.
How much is this in dollars? 225.
Angry
Jesus.
math intensifies.
Uh $36 for that. I mean, that's kind of a lot.
That is kind of a lot.
That's the biggest package though.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy as little as like I think 1,000, 2,500 Wumpa coins for was that like $4?
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but then you look at the stuff, and a character is 1,500 Wumpa coins, and
Mm-hmm.
a character skin is 2,500 Wumpa coins,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and you do get the occasional like set that's really cheap every now and then. But yeah,
Okay,
buying
yeah.
everything would be with real money would be super expensive.
Yes,
Right.
it would.
Mm.
Yeah, especially if you're not that good enough to do all the Wumpa challenges to get more coins and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it is Blizzard Activision or Activision Blizzard or you know give us your fucking
Namco
money.
Bandai Namco.
Yeah,
We are having issues with the like publishers and game companies that have more than one name.
yeah, just
Which they virtually all
freaking
do at
name.
this point.
Yeah,
Just
Since
pick
they're
a
because they
name or
concurrent.
merged
split
with
up.
everyone. Stop merging, goddammit! Stop buying shit.
It's funny. When you log into Crash Team Racing, there's an ad for Crash 4,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
and it says like it's optimized for the PS5. Haven't bought the PS5 yet? You can buy it on the PS4, and you'll have an option to upgrade uh, to PS5.
Yeah, because it's our choice not to buy the PS5 right now.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
smart. I mean, I just don't want to buy it yet. Not
I
because I can't actually
I,
find it for
I
under
wanna
1,000
wait
euros.
until it goes on sale. But yeah, beautiful.
You want to wait till it goes on sale,
Yeah, literally.
as in on sale the ability to buy it,
Yeah,
not to get
exactly.
cheaper.
I
No, you
just
can.
want the option to purchase it.
I mean, you can buy it. You'll just pay as much as two PlayStation 5s to get one.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
I love a good deal.
One for the price of two. That's
Yep.
some Neo Cortex plans. Just fucking everything up.
Well, all right. Are there any concluding thoughts?
Just a message to the developers: be like Naughty Dog. Try to be like innovative. Make something good, not just rehash all shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You too can make more money than God someday if you do.
We believe in you. We believes.
Anything else?
That's about it for me.
Not for me.
And none for me. Aside from a massive thank you to Mate for doing such intensive research and presenting a really comprehensive look at not just Crash 1, but kind of the whole series as an overview to us. Really appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that, man.
Yeah,
And
thank you for not making us do shit.
indeed.
Love it.
Pleasure, I guess. Don't
And I'm
expect it too
sure
often.
our audience shares that appreciation. And I believe that'll do it for us for today, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Over Analysts. Expect to see us back in a couple of weeks with our next broadcast. But in the meantime, please feel free to stop by our YouTube channel at The Over Analysts sometime next week, hopefully, for a new episode of Overanalyzing Creepypasta, our short form online horror fiction riff series.
Yay!
Until then, I've been Brady, the Overanalyst, joined as always by my good friends Martina, or Seth the Overwitch,
Bye all.
and Mate, or Comrade Potato.
Bye bye, everybody.
And we wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you and goodbye.